Hello everybody, my name is Marsh, and this is going to be my spoiler-filled review of Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. Let's jump into it. Before we get started, I just wanted to show you some of my new merch I got and see if you're interested in it. The first item are these nice, fancy rocks, perfect for stacking. Like, I even heard you could summon spirits with them if you're good enough at stacking them. The next item is this beautiful piece of bamboo. Great for getting rid of nightmares and destroying them and vanishing them back to whatever dimension they came from. Highly recommend. It's only like $45, but it's worth it. So you make a choice, rocks or bamboo. Anyways, now that that's out of the way, we're going to be doing a spoiler-filled discussion on Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. If you end up enjoying this video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. That'd be greatly appreciated. And let's go ahead and get started. So Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, there's a few things I wanted to talk about in regards to this secret project by Brandon Sanderson. One of the topics I wanted to cover was the themes that I saw overall. Another topic I wanted to cover is my overall enjoyment, what I liked about the plot, magic system, world, etc. The third topic I wanted to discuss is the Cosmere elements that I noticed. Now, I'm not a Cosmere expert. I don't claim to ever be a Cosmere expert. In terms of what I've read in the Cosmere, that would be the first 3 Stormlight books and the 2 sub-novels and novellas. And then I've also read Mistborn Era 1, Warbreaker, and The Secret Projects. So anything from Elantris or Mistborn Era 2, and then all the other stories I haven't read, so I'm not an expert on those. Getting right into it, though, let's go ahead and talk about the characters to start out. Our 2 main characters. We have Yumi, the rock stacker, as I showed before, and basically she comes from this world where it's always sun, always daylight. It's like Alaska, and the ground is hot, and she summons spirits to help the world and do tasks. So she has the spirits do certain things, and for example, one person wants to use it for light in their house, and it'll last for 6 years, etc. And then on the other end of the spectrum, going back to the Alaska analogy, you have Painter's World. I think his name is Nakaro. I could be wrong. I'll put it up here. He is in a world where it's basically always nighttime, and he is what they call a nightmare painter. And so his job is to locate nightmares, which are these corporeal, shadowy entity figures, and get rid of them to keep the citizens safe. And if you don't get rid of these nightmares, they eventually become stable and they can destroy the town. And so that's basically what we have here going on. You have Painter and Yumi. Painter, I mentioned, showed with the bamboo because he lost all passion basically and only draws bamboo. Now, since this is a spoiler discussion, you probably know what already happened with the story, so I'm not going to do a thorough summary of everything. But I wanted to mention a few themes I noticed with both the characters that I really connected with. The first one is with Painter. Brandon Sanderson gives a few ideas when it comes to Painter, such as social anxiety and also the idea of like the boy who cried wolf. And that's because of the social anxiety. It's not as basic as the original story of the boy who cried wolf. For example, Painter, he essentially was a very talented artist and wanted to be part of the Dream Watch, I believe it is. I'll put it up here if I'm wrong. And so he basically from a young age practiced his art to get it as good as he could, and he was denied from the Dream Watch. But when he arrived, he told everyone, Akane, Tojin, and Izzy, I believe it is, and all the other people in the group, that he's going to be one and they'll be his companions. And so he got their hopes up, and he lied to them saying that he was in the Dream Watch, and he never told them that he never got in. And part of not telling them was because his social anxiety. He basically was afraid to make anyone uncomfortable, and as someone who has some social anxiety, it's very relatable in the way it was portrayed. So basically, you make little excuses for yourself to find a reason to not do the tough things or what you may perceive as tough. In this case, it's bringing up an awkward situation, a confession, or telling someone something that they may need to know, but it may be uncomfortable. I've been in similar circumstances where you will find any excuse to push something down the road so you don't need to interact with it now. In this case, the first excuse, I think he said it was like Akane's birthday. He didn't want to ruin her birthday with the sad news. And then something else came up and he kept pushing it until eventually it piles up so much and it's been so long, it's just better to not mention it at all. And you hope it just doesn't bubble up again. In this case, it did. And now they can't trust him. And that's where the boy who cries wolf thing comes in, because basically everything he says from that point, they don't believe him. And when they need to believe him, there's no reason for them to. This is one of the many reasons I related with Painter on like that level emotionally, which helped me really connect with this secret project to make me really enjoy it for what it was. And then you have Yumi. Now this is more not my personal connection, but a theme I sort of saw with Yumi that I wish was explored further. She is very strongly tied to her religion and traditions. And I think the thing that I saw coming out of her story was the conflict of traditionalism versus modernality, or modern, I don't know the word, the modern aspect coming into things. So in our world, a lot of the times people who are raised in like religion, very traditional religion, for example, or traditional household, when they go off to college, they sometimes get new viewpoints and their ideas change. Doesn't happen to everyone, but it happens to some. And for some religions, the things that they're taught as a child can be perceived as a lie when they see new ideas brought to them when they're older. And that's sort of what I thought was coming to shape with Yumi's storyline. Because it was mentioned at one point that her mentor was essentially lying to her this whole time, acting like she had to follow tradition. She didn't really have choice. When there's reformers and people who are going against the traditions of the religion. And I thought it was going to be this conflict with Yumi of, I've been lied to my whole life. What should I believe? What should I do? And it wasn't really explored further. And I feel like that was one of the deeper themes that could have been talked about, because it relates to our actual world when it comes to things like religion, when people do have conflicts with that, depending what they're raised into and things of that sort. And so I was hoping that would have been explored further, because it was just mentioned and they kind of just moved on from it to instead tackle the actual plot of the story. Now, I've been talking a lot about the theme and everything, so we'll move on from that. But let's go ahead and jump into the next topic I wanted to discuss. The next topics I wanted to discuss is the plot itself. I actually enjoyed the plot a lot. When it comes to all the secret novels, I rank it with Tress. I think Tress has a better plot, but I enjoy the characters more in Secret Project 3. And then Secret Project 2 is just not doing it for me. But Secret Project 3 I really like. They're on par for different reasons. This one's for characters, Tress is for plot. And when it comes to this plot specifically, I think Brandon Sanderson kind of chickened out, to be honest with you. The whole time they're setting up these ideas of tragedies, and Hoyd, our narrator, is talking about how tragedies are needed, and you have Yumi seeing the soap operas on TV where there's tragedies happening and it doesn't end happily, and they discuss that. And then you also see later Hoyd, when Yumi disappears because they saved the world, Hoyd mentions that it's okay to have tragedies. And I thought it would have been a beautiful tragedy if they just ended it how it was, with Painter never being able to talk to his love again and see her ever again. Yes, obviously it ended happily with him doing like a magical painting and her coming out of it, and they live happily ever after, etc., in Design's noodle shop. But I think it would have been beautiful to just leave it as a tragedy instead of chickening out and making it happy. I think both endings are good. I just personally would have loved if it was a tragedy more, because I'm kind of a morbid person, so I enjoy when you can have something sad be beautiful at the same time. That's all. Wanted to say, I just thought a little chicken out of Brandon Sanderson, but it was still good. I don't know if you agree with that, though. What do you think about the ending? Should he have left it a tragedy, or should he have kept it with the happy ending? The other thing I wanted to talk about is just all the Cosmere stuff. Once more, I'm not a Cosmere expert, but someone may be able to correct me for this, but are the spirits Spren? At one point, they're talking about honor spren and things like that. At least design mentioned it. And it got me thinking, are the spirits actually like spren? Because I know there's creation spren in Stormlight Archive where when Shallan is drawing, they'll come and watch her draw. So I'm wondering if they're summoning creation spren and using them in like a Fabrial through the machine to be used through like Heon lines and things like that. I don't know. Someone tell me below what they think about that. I'm not an expert. The other thing that was interesting as well is we got to learn more about Hoid, and design was thrown into there as well. And they're talking about cryptics and everything, which I believe pattern is a cryptic spren or something like that. Mine could be off. It's been a while. But they're talking about the cryptics and spren, and we're talking about Hoid jumping worlds and all these other things. And they're just building the lore of Hoid more and more. And I think we may, even if we may never get a Hoid novel per se, these novels are giving us an idea of Hoid directly, since he's the narrator of each one. I assume Secret Project 4, he's also going to be the narrator. I haven't read any of it. I know there's like a preview of the first few chapters that Brandon Sanderson read, but I haven't looked into that yet because I don't want to be spoiled. But I'm assuming he's going to be the narrator for all three of the Secret Projects outside of number 2, which isn't Cosmere related. And so this is basically him building the Cosmere, and I know it's basically, he said, all like hands off and everything, or not hands off, everything's like good to go now, because these are going to be like, every novel going forward is going to be Cosmere heavy. Because he's like, at this point, if you haven't read the stuff and you're reading these ones, what are you doing in the first place? And so that was first seen with Tress with all the references. It's continuing now. And I know he said the next one's going to be like the heaviest Cosmere involved one. And so it's going to be pretty insane to think about the way that the universe is coming together. And then when we get Mistborn Era 3, and then we're going to get the next Stormlight book, I wonder if the next Stormlight's going to be heavy in the Cosmere too. We'll have to see. But I'm really loving with what he's doing with Hoid and everything, and the Cosmere in general. And I need to read Elantris and all of that eventually, and I'll get to it. But but it's a lot to get through. I'm taking my time with it. Overall, though, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the romance between Yumi and Painter. I thought it was wholesome with it. One other thing I wanted to mention is I enjoyed the mature take Brandon Sanderson had in the body swapping situations, the Freaky Friday situations. I think it would have been real easy to take a pervy, non-consensual perspective of things, with them swapping bodies and going to the bath and looking at each other naked and stuff like that. It could have been very immature, but he did it in a mature way that wasn't distasteful, which I appreciated, because it would have been very easy to slip into a very immature state of mind and take away from the book itself, and you don't want that to take away from what it is at its core, which is a beautiful love story. Most similarly, I actually don't think Freaky Friday is the best example of this. I actually think something like Your Name is closer to it, since it's a love story based off Freaky Friday or body swapping. So I would check out Your Name if you haven't. It's a pretty good movie. It was almost up for Oscar consideration, which is saying something since they don't really do that for anime movies. But yeah, overall, I really liked it. I think I'll eventually like this one more than Secret Project 1. They're kind of even right now, but I feel like this one I would go back to because I connected with the characters more, versus Secret Project 1. I enjoy the plot and the world and magic system more. This magic system was not my favorite. It was kind of just like there, not really explained as hard as other magic systems that he has. And I think it also ties into the ending of the story. I feel like it was a very slow prodding, and the ending kind of just like happened. It wasn't like a crazy climax. So we'll have to see how it goes with that. But I still enjoyed it overall. What did you guys all think about it though? What Secret Project do you like best? How would you rank them? What other Cosmere stuff did I miss in there? Feel free to mention them, as long as it's not like spoilers for like Elantris or Mistborn Era 2. Just not like any spoiler heavy stuff, just like basic details I should probably already know. And other than that, I hope you all had a wonderful rest of your day. If you end up liking this video, consider leaving a like and subscribing, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.